Hi guys, welcome back to 23rd video tutorial of J2EE. So the previous discussion we had we just created a home page servlet and we deployed in Tomcat server. So within the Tomcat server we can able to deploy our .class file and we configured in web.xml. Then we got the output in the browser saying welcome to servlet homepage. So now we can see the life cycle method, how actually they are functioning. The first method, which is init. So it should load when the application is loading, and the service method, whenever you call this service method, each and every call, this service method will be executed and the output will be rendered. Let's see in the console, the Tomcat console. See, the servlet initialization happened only once and service method is calling n number of times. Suppose there are 3 times it is called already. Let me call one more time and we'll see whether it is impacting or not. I'm just calling one more time. We'll see the output. Service method is added. I'm just refreshing one more time. One more time it's added. So likewise, n number of times you will be calling this particular servlet, those many times the service method will be triggered, but the initialization will happen only once. So this is the life cycle of each servlet. So far we implemented using the servlet interface, which is we have to implement all the methods within the servlet interface, and there are a few advanced classes which are provided by the Java Extract servlet. By using them, we don't need to particularly write these init method and the destroy and configuration related information. We just need to write the service method itself. Let me create a new file within the source code. I'll name it as about us, so which is not there, about us.java. So what I'm doing here is I'm just having about us servlet where I don't need to mention init method and servlet config and info methods. I just mention the service method alone. Public class about us. So what I'm doing here is, instead of implementing servlet interface, I'm just extending a class called GenericServlet. So GenericServlet is a class. So this GenericServlet is class coming from Java dot. Let me have import Java Extract servlet dot stuff. If you remember the first diagram, there I mentioned the list of classes. This is where from that. So servlet, Java Extract servlet is having servlet interface and GenericServlet class as well. So as I mentioned, we don't need to have init methods and all. We just I'm directly going and implementing the service method itself. Public void service will be having servlet request and response. And I don't want to handle any exceptions. I just want to give it to the compiler. Just writing throws IO exception and servlet exception. So to make this IO exception available, I'm just importing java.io. So let me have the output generated here, like how we created homepage.java. The same way I'll be writing a service method where I can have response types to be setted. Content type is text or HTML. So I just set the type content type for HTML, and I'm just writing print title out equal to, I need to get it from response. Now I need to write the output out dot print of, put a HTML tags, HTML open and close, body. If you have a very good knowledge in HTML, then you can write your own CSS and all. About us page. So I'm just writing about us page. So I didn't write any other methods. If you compare with this home page, which is implemented the servlet interface, we have written a lot of code. Here with the generic servlet, I just write the service method itself. I didn't mention anything else. So let me compile this. So to deploy this about us page, what we have to do, we just need to generate a tar class file. Then we have to deploy into the classes folder. Let me generate tar class file for this. Javac about us.java. Some syntax, semicolon is missing. Now the about us class is generated. I'm just copying this to classes folder within our Tomcat. Web apps. The project is demo, web and classes. So now we have two servlets are available. So let me access the about page, whether we can able to get this page. No, actually we just wrote this class and we haven't configured the about us to in web.xml. Let us try before applying anything. About us, so it's giving 404. So to avoid this error, what we have to do, even the class is available within the classes folder, but we need to configure this to web.xml. Let me go to web.xml. There you need to have one more servlet, and servlet mapping. Within this, as I mentioned, we need to have a common name for both of them, which is servlet name as about. And the same name we have to keep it in mappings also. So the other things, like we need to have servlet class. There you need to mention the class name, which is about us. And at last we have to mention our URL pattern. What is our URL pattern to be expected about us? So that's it. We're done with adding one more servlet to the web context. So the URL pattern should contain the slash character, otherwise it will throw the error. Let me restart one more time. Starting twice. Yep, got it. Let me rerun this. So now you got about us page. So these how you can able to add a new servlet with the generic servlet. Let me try out the HTTP servlet here, or let me have one more file for that, so that we can have three different files for three different types. Let me go to source code, where I can have one more file which is named as, what name we can give it here, which is about contact us. So I just have one page which is contact us, where I can copy paste this code. Nothing crazy I was writing here. Contact us, and it is implementing the HTTP servlet, not the generic servlet. And these also from java.servlet.http. Now we have to change the service servlet request, which is HTTP servlet request, and the other one is HTTP servlet response. And as we have this servlet exception over here, we just need to have the servlet dot star also, which is actually required for this, or you can directly mention this class alone. That will be fine enough. So these are we can able to have the HTTP servlet, and let's compile this file, and we can generate a .h file for this. Javac HTTP contact us .java. So now the .loss file got generated. Let me copy to classes folder. In the Tomcat, our application is in web apps, demo, webinf, and classes. Just place it here. Now the next step is we need to configure the URL. So for contactors, we need to configure within the web.xml. Let's go to the web.xml and modify it. So as we already have it, I'm just copying this to here, and I'm just putting contact. The servlet name should be same as both the ways, both the servlet and servlet mapping. I'm just putting same, and the class of the name is contact us. And the URL we are expecting contact us. So that's it. Let me restart the server. For that, you just need to go to the bin and Tomcat bin, and you just need to click on startup batch. So just started the server, and we can test our contact us page. Contact us. So that's how we'll be getting contact us page. And now we have all the pages, like one is home page ready, and about us page ready, and contact page ready. So we have implemented three types of implementation. One is home page with the servlet interface. The other one is with generic servlet, which is from Java extract servlet again. And we have covered the other one, which is contact us, which is our HTTP servlet. So there are three different ways you can able to achieve it. So in real time, people are using HTTP servlet because here you can't see the difference between GenericServlet and HttpServlet, but there are other methods available for HttpServlet other than the GenericServlet, which is not having. So which is like the HTTP methods. So the methods are like let me clear out this. So the methods are like the service one, which we already saw, service method, and do get, do post, do delete, do put. So these are all the different methods are available within the HttpServlet method. But if you see in GenericServlet, you will be having only the service method itself. You don't have any other methods. So we'll be having only the service method. If you take the servlet interface, there you will be having all 5 methods. One is init and service, destroy, and config method, and info method. So these are all the different classes and interfaces. These is an interface. Make sure these is an interface, and all other are classes. So these are the major difference between the 3 types of implementations of servlet. One is the servlet interface. So it will have the whole lifecycle methods, and GenericServlet, it will avoid the lifecycle methods, most of them, and it will have only service method to be abstract method we have to implement. But in terms of HttpServlet, we have service method also available, and other than that, we have specific HTTP specific methods, which are do get, do post, and do delete, and do put. These methods are available within the HttpServlet. So we can see these method particularly when and all we have to use it. Suppose if there is a resources available. Suppose if we know like the products are there in the with the products TV, and we want to get all the products. It's kind of just retrieving the data. We are not doing any operations out of it. That's called as get method. Get method is for just read data. For reading data only, we will be using get method. And for post, so suppose if you want to add any new product within the TV, for that we'll be using post. Add new product or anything. Here it is, read products. Here it is, post will be using for adding a new product. Delete will be used for delete any product or products. And put method will be used for update any product, or I can simply put update product. So these are, we can use these particular methods for specific operation, but service you can use for anything, but these methods you can use for these specific purpose. That makes the code will be clear, and the operations will be clear for reference. So these are major difference between the different types of implementations of HTTP, so the servlet implementations. So let's try out one by one and do it. I'm just giving these things to you for homework, and you can practice it. And for now, we just covered the types of implementations for Servlet. One is Servlet interface, GenericServlet, and HttpServlet. We tried all of them, and the next step will be we're going to cover welcome file list. What is a welcome file list? Suppose when I'm opening this project, so if I give specific page, I'm getting it. So if I don't mention any specific page, where it has to go? So it's simply, if I give the project name, it's giving simply 404. So I don't want this to be happen. I just want a welcome file list where by default it has to go to by some particular page without giving any URL. It has to go to some particular page. From there, the welcome file list came. We have to configure the welcome file list within the web.xml itself. So it's not respective to any servlet, but it needed one of the servlet reference for mentioning welcome file list. The code will be welcome file list, open and close welcome file list, and here you have to mention what is a welcome file. So if you have any index.html or something, you can give it, or if you have any servlet you want, you just give to any servlet, home page or something. You can give this, or if you have any HTML is created there, you can give that HTML file also. Let me have this, anyhow we'll be getting that, and let me have one more HTML file to be created here that we can give it to welcome file. So let me go to web apps demo, where we have to create welcome HTML files within the project folder itself. It's not inside the web.inf, it's outside web.inf, it's within demo project folder itself. Here I need to create a new HTML file which is named as, I'll mention any name here. This is index.html, which is the starting point for my code. Just putting welcome to Servlet tutorial. So I'm just giving a name called welcome to Servlet tutorial. You just give it to HTML tags, it's optional. Even if you don't mention it, it will give it. There's no problem, but let me have tags added. Let me put it in H1, so it will actually show the title way. So it will be like font will be bigger and size will be, text will be bold format. So I just created a index.html within the demo folder. This file I just want to load it when the application is loading. For that, what I'm doing is within the welcome file list, I'm just giving index.html. That's it. Let's rerun our server, then we can see the results. Let me go to the Tomcat bin. I just need to just start a batch run. The server is starting, and we'll see the output here. See, now we got, with the project URL, we got welcome to Servlet tutorial. Now if you give other URLs like a home page or something, you'll be getting the same results. There's no difference between them. Contact us, you can get all the pages. If you just give the project URL, by default it will look for the welcome page and it will load the particular HTML whatever you mentioned within the web.xml. So these about welcome file list, and the next topic we're going to discuss about load on startup. So what is a load on startup? Suppose when you're loading this particular application, like when you're making this project loaded to the Tomcat server, suppose if you want to make which page to be loaded first by default without hitting the URL itself, you want to load some particular class. That's where this load on startup is coming. Suppose there are 100 servlets are available. You just want to load in one particular class in at first, and or you want to prioritize these the first class and these the second class, these the third class. So even if you don't want to hit the URL in the browser, you just want to load the particular servlet to be available when the container is starting. It means when the Tomcat is starting, that time you have to mention it. So the position will be within the servlet tag. You have to declare load on startup. So I'm just giving index 1. This is the first index I'm giving. Load on startup. That's it. We'll see how it actually differs in the console. I'm just restarting the server. Go to the bin. Start batch. I think I need to close this. I think I'm getting some errors. I just need to have the proper closing tag here. That's the reason I'm getting errors. Open, and these are you'll be getting unexpected results. If your server is giving some results, means you should clear about where it is missing. Here it is telling load on startup is missing. I just did that modification. Let me restart it one more time. Make sure this XML tags to be open and closed should be proper manner. Otherwise, you'll be getting the startup errors. Let me rerun this. So now I don't have any errors over here. Just got the output. So let me run the home page itself. So the home page got initialized. Now home page. See here there is no init method is called because we configure. I wanted to configure for home page because here in home page we have all the methods are configured. The service servlet initialization method is not called. It's directly calling the service method because this initialization is happening because we mentioned the load on startup to 1 because this has to load when the application is server is starting itself. The initialization will be happening in between. See here when the application is started, that time itself the servlet is initialized. So when you make a call, it just call the service method. So that's how the load on startup will work. If you don't mention the load on startup for 1, then whenever you make the call here for first time, then only this servlet initialized. Let me comment that code and we'll see the result now. Let me remove this. So I'm just restarting it. So server is started. There is nowhere you can find this init is in declared. Let me call the home page method here, home page here. Once I call the home page, then the init will happen for first time and service method will be triggered. The service and servlet initialization is done and service method also called. So whenever you make a first call, then this initialization will happen. And if you go to code and revert this load on startup, then this initialization will happen when the time the application is loading itself. Let me restart this. If you see, I didn't even hit this page. It's a old page only, old history page only. The servlet is initialized here. If I make a call for this, it just call the service method itself. We got service method called and we got the home page here. So these are the difference between load on startup if you put and if you don't put it. So that's about the very basic concepts of declaring different types of implementation for servlet interface and other classes. And we have covered welcome file list and load and startup. So next tutorial we can see some important things. Thanks guys. Thanks for watching.